The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. After Jesus had spoken, a Pharisee invited him to dine at his home. He entered and reclined at table to eat. The Pharisee was amazed to see that he did not observe the prescribed washing before the meal. The Lord said to him, "O you Pharisees, although you cleanse the outside of the cup and the dish, inside you are filled with plunder and evil. You fools! Did not the maker of the outside also make the inside? But as to what is within, give alms, and behold, everything will be clean for you." Dear friends, the Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Shalom, everyone. Good evening. Contemplating on our Gospel reading, I will say that if Jesus were invited to the house of an IATF member for a dinner, most likely, most probably, just like before in the house of the Pharisee, he might once again offend the host, the IATF member. Why? Because, again, he might not wash his hands, thereby, violating the basic protocols set by the IATF. Was it intentional on the side of Jesus? Was it deliberate? From my perspective, yes, I believe so. It was intentional. Why? Because he would like to drive the point that if you are so concerned to give premium on what is external, you must also be concerned with what is internal. And to say, if you would like to clean the external, you must also cleanse what is inside. Clean not only the outside of the cup, but also what is inside. In other words, it should not just be external, because, for example, external success would not guarantee, would not mean, internal coherence. Internal, external, outer, inner, within, without, the yin and the yang of the Chinese philosophy, there must be no discrepancy. There must be the unity. In a book entitled Built to Last, and I think in that book the author tried to examine why certain companies thrive despite challenges. Challenges, for example, of we call that now the VUCA world, VUCA, meaning volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Despite challenges, certain companies are able not only to thrive, but also to last for a long, long time. And in the examination of this author, I think the author's name is Jim Collins, he proposed a certain principle. According to him, one of the characteristics of these visionary companies, or shall we say successful companies, is that, for one, they're capable, they have this capacity not only to reject the tyranny of the or, but also to embrace the genius of the and. Tyranny of the or, the genius of the and. Meaning to say, we're familiar with either or. Either internal or external. But for the author, he's saying, not that. Rather, it should be internal and external. The genius of the end. And he has given the case study done on, maybe Larry is familiar with this, the Merck, that giant pharmaceutical company. As an example, no? As an example. And according to this author, this company is guided by a certain principle, which they call pragmatic idealism. Pragmatic idealism. They have to be pragmatic. They have to be practical. They have to earn money. They have to, gain money in order to support their operations, to make their investors happy. But profitability is not the only measure. They are also anchored, they are guided, they are animated by a certain idealism. And that is to save human lives. I suppose not only souls, but human lives, to save human lives. That's why they are so impassioned to produce, to come up with products that would benefit humanity, to save human lives. And because of that, they are patronized by so many people, thereby helping also their bottom line, their profitability. So I mean to say, seemingly they are contradictory, but you can marry them, you can combine them. Pragmatism and idealism. In this time of the pandemic, we have encountered so many paradoxes. Paradox, I think you're familiar with that, no? For example, the paradox of solitude and solidarity. Solitude. During the lockdown, we were invited to pray. To pray in solitude. And yet, eventually, we realized that we have to extend our hands to help others, to reach out to others in solidarity, to help others. And here we can say that it's not either or again. We can combine solitude and solidarity. Or in the words of Cardinal Orly during his conferences, it must be prayer and action, action and contemplation, prayer and work, prayer and what else? Mission. The blending of the mountain, if you can still remember, the mountain and the plain in the transfigured Lord. The divine and the human merged together, combined, blended. The end, the genius of the end. Because of the pandemic, so many things are so distant now, remote. But at this time, the call for connectivity is even greater. Distant, remote, but there's a need for connectivity. Being absent from each one's presence, but we need to be present to one another. For as always, we have given the privilege to be on retreat, and there's that certain dynamic also, that paradox in a retreat. Of course, we know what retreat is. How to move back, retreat, in order to move forward. We are given the opportunity to look inside, but of course, we carry along with us the travails, the concerns of our ministry, and yet we are asked to get inside. And of course, the external manifestations of God's love, nice food, the opportunity to take rest, and yet we know that God has been so gracious to us, can also be found inside. And it's really good. It's good for us to be here. It's really good for us to be here. And I really appreciate that Cardinal Orly has walked us through the great oblate heritage, our tradition, and the great oblate tradition. And of course, our young people here, our young oblates are still very familiar, I suppose, with what tradition is. Tradition, as you know, is not just a mere slavish repetition of things gone by. It is dynamic, it's alive. The great theologian, what's the name? Yves Congar has likened tradition to walking. One foot is stuck on the ground, while the other takes the step. And that the one taking the step would be grounded in order for the other to take the step. So for us, maybe the word would be creative fidelity. We have to be faithful to our tradition, but we have to be creative enough in order to live that out in concrete terms in our times today. We are called for conversion, and we ask for that grace in this retreat, the grace for conversion. And again, the paradox in the word conversion. In the experience of Eugene, as we know, there was great sorrow. There was great sorrow because he realized his sinfulness, but there was also joy in the experience because he also realized God's great love for us. And that love impelled him to share that love to others, most especially the poor. So just like Eugene, hopefully we'll be able to open ourselves to conversion. In this Mass, just like the psalmist, I think it's a beautiful prayer. We say to the Lord, let your mercy come to me. Let your mercy come to us, O Lord. Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy.